Getting fired in Switzerland, man, it can feel like a total gut punch. It's stressful, it's confusing, but look, understanding your rights, that's your first step to getting back in control.
So let's start with a big, scary question that's probably on your mind. You've been doing good work, hitting your goals, and suddenly you get that dreaded meeting invite. Can they really just let you go for no reason at all?
And this might come as a shock, but the short answer is yes, they can. In Switzerland, an employer can fire you without giving you any reason. But, and this is a huge but, that is not the end of the story, not even close.
See, this all comes from a legal principle called Kündigungsfreiheit, which basically just means freedom of termination. Think of it as a two-way street. In theory, both you and your employer can end the working relationship whenever you want, as long as the proper notice period is respected.
But, and here's the good news, that freedom is not a blank check. While your employer has freedom, you have protection. You have 4 powerful legal shields, and knowing how to use them can completely change the game. So here they are, your 4 shields. First, they have to get the notice periods right. Second, you have protection against what the law calls an abusive termination. Third, and this one is a real game changer, you're totally protected during certain protected periods. And finally, you've got special protections against discrimination and retaliation. Let's break all of those down.
Okay, before we go any deeper, we need to get one thing crystal clear. This might be the single most important distinction you need to know, the difference between a firing that is unfair and one that is invalid, because the outcomes are worlds apart.
Okay, check this out. If a termination is ruled unfair or abusive, it is still legally valid. You still lose your job. Your only option is to go after them for money. But if a termination is invalid, it's null and void. Poof, it's like it never even happened, and you're still employed. The difference is absolutely massive.
So what counts as an abusive termination? Well, it's when the reason they fired you is just wrong. It violates good faith. Maybe it's because of your age or your religion or because you asked for a promotion you deserved. But remember the key takeaway here. Even if you prove it was abusive, the termination holds. Your job is still gone.
So what happens to a company that fires someone abusively? Well, if you win your case, the most a court can award you is 6 months' salary. Now, that's a decent chunk of change for sure, but again, it doesn't get you your job back.
All right, so getting money is one thing, but what if there was a way to make the firing just go away? This is where your strongest shield comes into play. We're talking about something called Sperrfristen, which are basically protected periods or blocked periods, and during these times, a termination is totally invalid.
A protected period is like a legal force field around your job. It's a specific window of time, defined by law, where your boss literally cannot fire you. If they try to give you a termination notice during one of these periods, that notice has 0 legal weight. It's worthless.
So when does this force field kick in? Well, the most common situations are if you're doing your mandatory Swiss military or civil service, if you're unable to work because you're sick or had an accident that wasn't your fault, and of course, during pregnancy and for the 16 weeks right after childbirth.
And this protection has 2 superpowers. First, like we said, if they try to fire you during the protected period, that termination is void. But second, and this is amazing, if you're already working through your notice period and then something happens, like you get sick, the notice period just pauses. The clock literally stops ticking until you're better.
So how long does this protection last if you get sick? Well, it's not unlimited, and it grows with you. In your first year of service, you're protected for 30 days. From your second to your 5th year, that protection jumps up to 90 days. And if you've been there 6 years or more, you're protected for a full 180 days.
Okay, now we need to talk about a type of firing that the law takes extremely seriously. This is the big red line. This is about being fired for discriminatory reasons, or as retaliation because you stood up for your rights. And this situation, well, it has a unique and very powerful solution.
The law specifically protects you from being fired because of your gender, or if you're married, or your family situation. But it also protects you from something called a retaliatory firing. That's when you get fired because you complained about discrimination, either inside the company or to a legal authority. Basically, they can't punish you for defending yourself.
And here is what makes retaliatory firings totally different from all other abusive ones. This is the one specific instance where you can go to court to fight to be reinstated, to actually get your job back. But, and you have to listen to this, there's a huge catch. You must file your case with the court before your notice period runs out.
Okay, so now you know your rights, you know about your shields, but what do you actually do?
Let's get practical. Let's build your immediate action plan, because what you do in the moments and days right after you get the news is absolutely crucial.
First things first, deadlines. They are everything. You must object in writing to an abusive termination before your notice period is over. For that special retaliatory firing, you have to file in court by that same deadline. Then, you have 180 days to file for compensation after you've objected. Miss these dates and your rights vanish. It is that simple.
So here are your first 3 moves. Your emergency checklist. Number 1, object. Send a registered letter saying you object to the termination as abusive. This is key to keeping your options open. 2, demand the reason for your firing in writing. You have a legal right to it. And 3, get your complete personnel file, all of it.
Now, why is getting that reason in writing so incredibly important? Because to prove a firing was abusive, you often have to poke holes in their official story. Making them put their reason down on paper is often the most powerful piece of evidence you can get your hands on.
So let's wrap this up. Yes, Switzerland's freedom of termination can seem harsh, but you are not powerless. You have shields, you have rights, but they all have deadlines. The clock starts ticking the second you're told you're fired. So the real question isn't just if you're prepared to act, it's how you're going to use what you now know to fight for yourself.